The U.S. system of measurements has all sorts of different measurements in it. All sorts of different conversions are required in order to deal with things. For instance, a number of miles can be converted to yards. It's 1,760 yards. It can be converted to feet. It's 5,280 feet. It's 63,360 inches. 320 rods. 8 furlongs. It's 16 or 1,609.4 or whatever. This meters. Of course, this isn't in U.S. It's not a U.S. Measurement, so that's why it doesn't come out nicely. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that these ones do come out nicely. Who remembers 63,360? This one, 5,280, I do actually happen to have memorized. If you're a surveyor, you might have the 320 rods memorized. I don't know. But you know, all of the U.S. system of measurements is such a hodgepodge of different conversion sizes. A foot is 12 inches, a yard is 3 feet, a rod is 16.5 feet. Who in the world thought of that? Well, actually, it's because this comes out nicely. 1 acre is 160 square rods. But again, why in the world would that happen? I don't know. Miles, that doesn't come out very nicely. Whatever. There's all these weird conversions, especially once you start talking about volume. A tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. A fluid ounce is 2 tablespoons. And now, don't get a fluid ounce mixed up with an ounce, because an ounce is a unit of weight. A fluid ounce is a unit of volume. In any case, all of these things are overly complicated, and you could technically memorize all of these. I'm not going to require you to memorize them. For one thing, in this class, well, yeah, I'm not going to require you to memorize them. If there is some of these weird measurements that you're required to use, I'll make sure that they're provided on the test, if it's on a test. If it's on a homework assignment or something like that, you can look it up, either in your book or on the internet or something like that. But, yeah, these are some of the standard units in the U.S. system of measurement. So let's do some conversions. So, in order to convert things, for instance, converting 4.2 yards to feet, the easiest way to do this, I mean, you've probably seen yards and feet enough that it kind of just jumps at you. You say, oh, multiply by 3. Well, what happens if you didn't know that you need to multiply by 3? Well, if you look it up and you see that 3 feet equals 1 yard. If you look that up in the chart and you go to do this, and you say, okay, well, I'm starting out with 4.2 yards. Well, what I'd like to do is convert from yards to feet. So what I'm going to, this current yards is in the numerator. It's on the top part of a fraction. So if I'm going to want things to cancel out, I'm going to want it to be on the bottom part of a fraction if I'm multiplying by something. And I know that 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. Since 3 feet is equal to 1 yard, then this fraction 3 feet divided by 1 yard is equal to 1. This quantity is equal to 1 because it's the same distance on the top and the same distance on the bottom. We know that a number divided by itself is equal to 1. And the same thing goes with the distances. A distance divided by itself is equal to 1. So, but the nice thing about that, writing it like this, is now I can cancel out those yards. And you can see this is where that multiplying by 3 comes from. 4.2 times 3, well, I can now do that. 4.2 times 3, which gives us 12.6. And this will be measured in feet, because that's the only units that were left over here. This is 12.6 feet. All right, so how about something like converting 11 yards to rods? Well, let's look it up. Let's see, 1 yard, well, that has a number of feet there. Yeah, I'm not seeing any nice conversion to rods, from rods to yards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert from a number of rods to a number of feet. Then I'm going to convert from a number of feet to a number of yards. So I'm going to have to do these conversions twice. I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I have 11 yards. That's what I'm starting off with. So I'll go from yards to, looks like feet. 3 feet and 1 yard. And then I'll go from yards, well, I mean, I'll go from feet, rather. It's 16.5 feet per 1 rod. And by doing it this way, you can see the feet will cancel with the feet. So whenever I'm introducing one, I introduce this fraction in such a way that my units will cancel. If I want feet to cancel out, I make sure feet are on the bottom down here since they were up top, up there. But now I have just a bunch of numbers all multiplied together. This is 11 on the top part of a fraction, so 11 times 3 times 1, which is 33. And on the bottom part, I have 16.5. And overall, let's see, my units here are in rods. And 33 divided by 16.5 is 2. So that means 11 yards is 2 rods. Okay, who knew? All right, and if you're wanting to do multiple conversions, this sort of a technique is how I would recommend doing it. I could have done this one step at a time. I could have multiplied those together, got a number of feet, then multiplied it by this and gotten a number of rods. But it's a lot easier to just kind of do it all at once. So if we want to go from gallons to pints, let me go over to here and figure out how I'm going to get there. I can go from gallons to quarts or fluid ounces. I'm wanting to go to pints. You can see pints, these both have fluid ounces in common, so they're going to be my kind of midway conversion. I'll go from gallons. A gallon is 128 fluid ounces. Oops. So let's see, I want gallons on the bottom since they were on the top, and it's 128 fluid ounces is 1 gallon. All right, now I'm going to go from fluid ounces to pints, because that's what I was going for. 16 fluid ounces is 1 pint. Let's see, I want my fluid ounces this time to be on the bottom because they were on the top. So 16 fluid ounces and 1 pint. Fluid ounces will cancel with fluid ounces, and we'll end up with 12 times 128 up top, and 16 on the bottom, and this will be measured in pints. So I'll go ahead and plug this into my calculator. 12 times 128 divided by 16, which gives me 96. We end up with 96 pints. I mean, obviously this could be simplified if you happen to know the conversion between gallons and pints, but there's so many so many different conversions that it's kind of impossible to know them all. So I wouldn't recommend anyone even bother trying. All right, if we want to convert a third of a cup to tablespoons, tablespoons is with the TBSP versus teaspoons, which would just be TSP, just in case you didn't know that. So we're starting with 1/3 cup. Let's go over here and figure out, let's see, we're going from cups. The only place I see cups are right here. And cups can be converted to fluid ounces. I'm guessing fluid ounces might be the way to go. 1 tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. 1 fluid ounce is 2 tablespoons. Oh, there we go. This is the one we want. 1 fluid ounce is 2 tablespoons. I want that measurement and this one. Oh, actually, I didn't even notice right here. 1 measuring cup is 8 fluid ounces, so I'll go ahead and use that one. So, I mean, I could have used either of those. So 1 cup on the bottom, and we're going to fluid ounces on the top, and that was 8 fluid ounces per 1 cup. And then I'll go from fluid ounces to tablespoons. 1 fluid ounce is 2 tablespoons. Fluid ounces go down here, and this is going to be TBSP. Cancel fluid ounces with fluid ounces, cancel cup with cup. We end up with 1/3 times 8 times 2 up top. And, well, a bunch of 1s down below. So multiplying all this together, 1/3 times 8 times 2 gives me 5.3 repeating. 5.3 repeating tablespoons. 5 1/3, if you want to write it that way. If you're used to cooking, you might scream at me with the 1/3 of a tablespoon. Why not convert that to a teaspoon? Well, it's because we were asked to convert this to tablespoons. So we get 5 1/3, or 5.3 repeating.